In 711, the Visigothic Kingdom stood on the brink, not of glory, but of collapse. A year earlier, King Roderick, Duke of Betica, had seized the throne in Toledo, overthrowing the young ruler Witiza. But his victory was hollow. In the northeast, Aquila, likely Witiza's son, claimed kingship, splitting the realm. Noble against noble, brother against brother, the Visigoths were tearing themselves apart, and from across the sea, an empire watched. The Umayyad Caliphate, having swept across North Africa, saw Hispania not as a kingdom, but as prey. Musa ibn Nusayr, governor of Ifriqiya, had already tested its defenses. What he found was chaos, no unity, no strong leadership, only a fractured land ripe for conquest. He appointed Tariq ibn Ziyad, a bold Berber general, to lead the invasion. In early 711, Tariq crossed the Strait of Gibraltar with 7,000 warriors, landing on the southern coast. Towns fell with little resistance. Impressed, Musa sent 5,000 reinforcements, bringing Tariq's force to 12,000, small in number, but hardened, loyal, and driven by faith. At that moment, Roderick was in the north, suppressing a Basque revolt. When news of the invasion reached him, he abandoned the campaign and rushed south, rallying an army of 35,000 men. Even former enemies, supporters of Witiza, joined his cause. They knew this was no ordinary war. If the Muslims were not stopped, there would be no kingdom left to rule. Determined to end the threat, Roderick marched toward destiny. As he advanced, Tariq took position on high ground near the Guadalete River, ready for the clash that would decide the fate of Iberia. Tariq ibn Ziyad, commanding a smaller but disciplined force, had fortified his position with earthworks and adopted a defensive stance. His plan was clear: absorb the initial charge of the larger Visigothic army, then unleash his swift Berber cavalry to exploit fatigue and confusion. But even before the first spear was thrown, Tariq had ensured his men would not falter. According to legend, upon landing in Hispania, some of his soldiers hesitated, daunted by the size of the enemy and the sea behind them. To eliminate any thought of retreat, Tariq gave a fateful order: burn the ships. As flames consumed the fleet, he stood before his men and spoke words that would echo through history.
"O people, where is the escape? The sea is behind you and the enemy before you. And by Allah, you have nothing left but conviction and perseverance."
There was no escape, only victory or death. Opposing him was King Roderick, mounted at the head of an army 3 times larger. He placed his elite heavy cavalry at the forefront, flanked by noble retainers, while his infantry formed the second line. His strategy was straightforward: use the sheer weight of his armored knights to break the Muslim center, then flood forward with infantry to crush what remained. Yet numbers could not compensate for cohesion. While Roderick's cavalry was formidable, much of his army consisted of poorly trained conscripts and levies, many forced into service. Loyalty was thin, morale uncertain. As the battle began, Roderick ordered a full frontal assault. His charging cavalry met a storm of javelins and arrows from Tariq's skirmishers, slowing their advance. Still, the Visigoths pressed forward, crashing into the Berber lines in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Tariq's defensive tactics initially held firm, blunting the Visigothic advance. But as Roderick's forces began to tire, Tariq seized the moment. He ordered his light cavalry to strike at the Visigothic flanks in a bold counterattack. Though initially repelled, this feigned retreat lured more of Roderick's troops into the chaotic melee at the center. With the Visigothic flanks now dangerously exposed, Tariq launched a decisive maneuver. His cavalry, previously held in reserve, surged forward in a flanking assault, encircling Roderick's forces. At this critical moment, Betrayal struck the Visigothic ranks. Oppa and Cisberto, likely commanding the flanks, abandoned the battle, leaving their positions wide open. Sensing victory, Tariq ordered a general assault. The combined force of the Muslim push shattered the last vestiges of Visigothic resistance. As panic set in, Roderick's foot soldiers broke ranks, fleeing in all directions. His cavalry, though disciplined, was gradually overwhelmed and cut down. Realizing his kingdom was crumbling before his eyes, Roderick, once the mighty king of the Visigoths, faced the bitter truth. His rule had ended not in triumph, but in utter defeat. The fate of King Roderick himself remains uncertain. Some accounts claim he perished in combat, perhaps even clashing personally with Tariq. Others suggest he drowned while attempting to escape across the river. Regardless, the battle ended in total disaster for the Visigoths. Over 16,000 of their troops were killed or wounded, while Tariq's forces suffered only 3,000 casualties. The victory at Guadalete was more than a triumph. It was a turning point in history. The Muslim conquest of Hispania had begun. The Battle of Guadalete shattered the Visigothic kingdom, leaving it in chaos. With much of the ruling class eliminated and internal divisions deepening, the realm was virtually defenseless. Seizing their momentum, the Umayyad forces swiftly advanced, capturing key cities and besieging Toledo, the Visigothic capital, within months. This victory marked the beginning of Muslim rule in the Iberian Peninsula and the rise of Al-Andalus. Over the centuries, this new Islamic state fostered a rich cultural and intellectual era known as the Islamic Golden Age, influencing science, art, and philosophy. The region became a melting pot where Islam, Christianity, and Judaism coexisted, shaping the identity of Spain for generations. From the ashes of the Visigothic kingdom, a new era had begun, one that would shape the destiny of Iberia for centuries to come.